Hello, it's Tim, and it's Pat. We haven't been on here in a while. I don't even know what episode number we're on, but it's another episode of Gridiron Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast. We'll call this the last episode of the 2021-2022 season, the inaugural season of the podcast and the podcast league. So last time we were on was the beginning of the playoffs, where we previewed the playoffs, who we thought was going to go where, and neither one of us had the person winning who won. No, we didn't. I don't think we even had him winning the first matchup.
I had him winning his matchup.
Did you?
Yep.
I
had him losing.
Yeah.
I just wanted both of you to lose. That's why I picked him.
Well, so here's the. I didn't go.
You and your brother to lose. So
yeah, but we didn't play against each. Neither one. Matt didn't play Berman until the finals.
That's all that matters.
And I didn't play Berman at all in the playoffs. But I digress. So our champion was Matt Berman.
Woo! Congratulations! You'll never see this.
Yeah, you don't watch, so it's not like it matters.
There's a trophy here for you.
Yeah, the trophy's all blurry in the background behind Patrick. There it is.
Still blurry.
Yeah, still blurry. You gotta put it in front of your face, and then it'll not be blurry.
No, it's because Berman won it. It just won't go back.
Yeah,
it's never gonna be.
Should we set odds as to if he breaks it or not?
I bought a second one already.
No, did you really?
No.
Okay, I was gonna say you should should. So anyway, yeah, congratulations, Berman. You won. Big. You should probably send a bottle of whatever you're gonna put in there to Jamar Chase.
Maybe you should see if he could send a bottle to you.
I don't. Why would
he's got to have bonus money after this?
Why would Jamar want to send it to Berman though?
Oh, send him a tweet. See what happens.
Yeah, tweet at him, Berman, if you're listening.
What's the worst thing that happens?
Yeah, tweet at him. Be like, hey, I won my.
He says no.
I won my championship mostly because of you, not only because of you, mostly because of you, and see what happens.
Yeah, I won this giant decanter because of you. Mm-hmm. Help me fill it.
Yeah, like give me, send me a bottle. If he sends you a bottle of Tito's, he sends you a bottle of Tito's. So
still counts.
Yeah, so it wasn't at all a very close championship game. Berman blew Matt out of the water, Matt being my brother, due to, like I said, Jamar Chase putting up 55, 56 points in the final week.
Najee Harris had a pretty decent ass week too.
Yep. So we move on, I think.
Quickly.
Yes, we move on quickly. We will not dwell on this. The semifinals leading up to it were myself versus my brother, and that was a complete slugfest. The final scores, that was 179 to 178. That was Jalen Waddle won that game for my brother on Monday Night Football against the Saints in week 16. So Jalen Waddle won that game for my brother to beat me to go on to face Berman, who took care of Sutz, I believe, in a lower scoring game. I think it was in like the 120s for both of them. And then Berman's team exploded for 180 plus points in the final. So they showed up when he needed them to the most. It's funny, when my brother and I were texting each other, we're like, this is completely the most competitive game we've had in any of the games we had all season. In any matchup, the semifinal matchup between me and my brother, I think, was the highest combined total between two teams. Neither one of us could have set a better lineup, pretty much. I could have started Zach Wilson, who somehow outscored my super flex, but who's ever going to say, hey, look, I should have started Zach Wilson? No.
You right now are saying that. I traded him to you for that moment, and then you blew it.
I did blow it.
Blew it.
Yeah. So now we're going to move into the offseason of this league, and one of the things that we talked about at the beginning, we're not keeping our full entire rosters like most dynasty leagues where we're trying to keep players moving after the first year. So it's just your starting lineup. So what that means is you have to keep one quarterback at minimum, 2 running backs at minimum, 3 wide receivers at minimum, 1 tight end at minimum. Then after that, you have a flex. So running back, wide receiver, tight end, or a super flex, which is the same as what I just said. Plus you can keep a second quarterback if you'd like. But that means there's no keeping 3 quarterbacks in this league or anything like that. You can keep at most 4 running backs, at most 5 wide receivers, at most 3 tight ends if your heart desires. Right?
Gotta have one hell of a tight end lineup to pull that one off.
Right.
Imagine keeping 3 tight ends.
Which is so when it comes to something like this, and we're going to have off-season trading in our league, we just decided before we got on air that we're going to hold all transactions until after the actual NFL draft, because then you'll know after the NFL draft where your team stands. You'll know if you have someone who's borderline to be on your team because he might be the starting running back. He might not be, depending on what they draft. And then free agency will also have happened. So players like Melvin Gordon, is he staying in Denver? Is he not staying in Denver? That's could be a key for someone who wants to keep Melvin Gordon. If he's staying in Denver, it's going to be a timeshare and probably leaning more towards Javonte in the future. Don't know if he's going to make the cut for a roster spot with how limited it is. So stuff like that's going to happen. So one thing to look at if you have a league like this is if you need to make a trade for a player, like a quarterback or something like that, and the person you're trading with has 3 on their roster and they can only keep 2, don't overpay for the quarterback. Plain and simple.
Depends on how bad your roster is.
Yeah, but you don't still.
Maybe your only starting quarterback is Justin Fields. Maybe you need to pay for a quarterback.
I don't pay too much for a quarterback. Someone who's gonna get dropped.
The other guy's Davis Mills.
Davis Mills is good. I like Davis Mills. He's probably not.
You're just trying to get me to be in last place again for 2 years in a row. That way you can go on this podcast and say Pat's in last place again. Don't play with me like that. I'll come over there. I know where you live.
No, you don't. Pete Sherman, 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
I do like how you're upstairs now, though.
Yeah, right. It's a new ambiance.
I like it.
Yeah, there won't be people walking inside during the podcast or downstairs during.
What if they do? Just random people walking into your room that you don't even know.
Well, we do have a ghost. So if you guys see like a flowy figure behind me, his name is Clyde. Just say hi. He's a cowboy that lives here. So
you named him Clyde the Cowboy?
No, that was his previous name given to us by our neighbor.
Clyde the Cowboy.
Yeah, he was an inhabitant of a different apartment, and then that person saged him out of their apartment. So Pat knows this person too. I will not divulge names.
I got who it is. Long story. He crossed the street, huh?
He went really far.
Impressive. Usually they just go next door. He went all the way across a parking lot.
No, so like we know, like it started out as a joke, right? And then Mike and I, we were bored one night. We were playing Pong. So we're playing Pong, right? And we stopped. Like we would stop to text because we're adults and we text. And while we stopped playing, the light above the table in our dining area would keep flickering. And then once we started playing, it would stop. So it's like, was he there telling us like what to do?
So Clyde's a big fan of beer pong?
And Mike had a friend over who swear to God they were having a conversation with Mike. And Mike, like, they're like, Mike, are you going to answer? Like, because they asked a question apparently. And Mike's like, no, Mike was like in the kitchen and they were upstairs. So they had a conversation with somebody. I don't know. Person was not intoxicated either at the time. So yeah,
Clyde.
This has nothing to do with the podcast, and I'm okay with it though.
Just curious why we named the cowboy Clyde.
I don't know. Why don't you ask the person who named him?
I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah,
I might do that.
Yeah, you could.
I'm just a little curious now.
Yeah, why is it Clyde the Cowboy?
Why would be Clyde the Cowboy?
I don't know. Every once in a
while,
the
more I say it, the more it rolls off the tongue. So it's okay.
Yeah. And every once in a while, we'll be sitting downstairs, and the dog will look up the stairs and just stare up the stairs. Like, you talking to Clyde? Yeah, see? It's Clyde.
Clyde the Cowboy.
I don't remember what we were talking about. Oh, also, yeah, so...
Trading. Don't overpay for a third quarterback.
Don't overpay for someone who's probably going to get dropped by another team. Make an offer if you want that person on your team, but don't give up like a huge draft capital. And the same thing goes for a running back whose situation in the future is murky at best. We had someone in our league give up, what was it, a second round pick for Damian Harris? Who knows what's going to happen? New England running backs are fluid. Belichick's probably going to draft another one this year.
The real question is, why don't I have Deebo Samuel yet?
Because you didn't accept the offer I sent to you.
What was it, like 7 first-round picks? It's not going to happen. Come on now.
No, I'm pretty sure it was Deebo just for the 101.
Yeah, you're not getting that.
Well, it's a fair offer.
You're insane.
It's a fair offer. Anyway,
it's not.
It's pretty fair, but I don't think Deebo's going anywhere. Anyway, I did offer Sutz a trade for Jonathan Taylor, and he didn't respond to it, so figured I'd offer him CMC and Elijah Moore and see if He was intrigued by it.
No.
Didn't even respond.
I deleted it.
Well, it's also Suts, so he probably didn't see it.
It's fair. It's probably on vacation.
He's not on vacation because he dropped Ben Roethlisberger today.
He's always on vacation.
He dropped Ben Roethlisberger today after I sent all those messages saying don't.
Yeah, that's okay.
Roster moves.
He doesn't count.
Yeah. So
I mean Ben. I don't mean Suts. I mean Big Ben does not count. He needs to be dropped.
He will eventually. I just don't want.
You could say there's a rule that there's no dropping and Big Ben gets dropped, and it's like, okay, that makes sense. It's fine. It's understandable.
The Steelers should have dropped him.
Exactly. That's my point. Like he shouldn't even. That's okay.
Right.
We'll allow that one.
So I have a couple decisions to make with my team as to who to keep and whatnot. I have 8 people that I know I'm going to keep. The starting quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, wherever he goes next year, if he's staying in Green Bay, if he's going to Pittsburgh, if he's going to Denver, he's going to be Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be a top 10 quarterback. I'm not losing that. I'm definitely keeping, obviously, Joe Mixon and Christian McCaffrey. RB1, RB2. Wide receivers, I'm keeping Cooper Kupp. I'm keeping Deebo Samuel. I'm keeping CeeDee Lamb. Going to keep Darren Waller at tight end. And then my first flex is where I'm going to be keeping. Who's in my first flex? Oh, there goes my brain again. Antonio Gibson. So then it's the spot of the super flex for me, and it comes down to 3 people, and this is in no order: Elijah Moore, Miles Sanders, and Zach Wilson. So
Elijah Moore.
That's where my head is pointed at currently, because Miles Sanders does not know what health means anymore. And Zach Wilson, I like Zach Wilson. I'm a Jets fan. I like the prospect of Zach Wilson, but
you can probably pick him up in the 3rd or 4th round again.
Exactly my point. Elijah Moore, I don't have a first round pick, and Elijah Moore might be a first round pick in this draft. The offensive talent coming out this year in the NFL draft is not anything crazy. In a rookie draft last year, Elijah Moore was a 2nd round pick. And he showed really good flashes this year of being a good wide receiver for fantasy. So, and also then it gives me 3 running backs and 4 wide receivers, so I have a backup for each of those positions. Do you have any decisions for you, Patrick, that are on your brain?
My only decision is what to do with Kenny Gainwell. Pretty sure he's getting dropped. And then I watched the playoff game where he became a featured back, and all of a sudden he looked unstoppable. He looked like the player I wanted when I drafted him.
Right.
And I hate him for that. The
Philadelphia backfield is very
yeah. My super flex is my only option, and that's why I'm glad to see. We'll wait to see how things shake out with the 4 running backs that are in that backfield. And go from there. But my super flex is between Davis Mills, Kenny Gainwell, Laviska Shenault, and Nico Collins.
Nico Collins.
Yeah, it's more of a see what develops type situation.
If Brian Flores gets hired as the head coach in Houston, it's a big no to Davis Mills.
You also got to see where, that's obvious. You got to see where the wide receivers from that team shake out, because no one on the Texans is guaranteed to be on the Texans tomorrow. It's one of those teams that will just ditch every player they can at the first sight of any offer. So he showed some promise down the stretch. My current wide receivers are Mike Williams, DeAndre Hopkins, A.J. Brown, and Michael Thomas, which sounds like a great roster on paper, but they have to be on the field and catch football. And none of them showed the ability to do that this year.
Nope.
I made the late round move Hopkins after he got hurt and Sutz was trying to make a playoff push, and I gave back one of my 3 first-round picks for DeAndre Hopkins, but it was my last first-round pick, and I think it was worth it. I don't think that was it didn't really. That was a no-brainer for me. That's the hard is going to be my running backs, which is clearly going to be a focus of the draft, and a second quarterback. Justin Fields is, who knows? I got to see who the next head coach of damn Chicago Bears is.
Yeah. There's rumors that
So
it's a very intriguing landing spot because some GMs and some head coaches that are around the league view it as Justin Fields is a tradable piece in Chicago rather than a build around piece. So some of them are looking at that as Justin Fields might be on the move, whoever
when
gets
you
hired out there.
have, and you watched it in Arizona, when you have new coaching, new GMs coming into a situation, a lot of times they want their own thing. The Cardinals had just drafted a quarterback who sucks, who sucked. He don't play no more.
He's a backup in San Francisco, isn't he?
It doesn't count. He's what
Practice
is he,
squad.
fifth string somewhere? Yeah, that he doesn't. He doesn't. He doesn't. We don't talk about him. We don't talk about him.
Josh Rosen.
Yeah, Josh Rosen went from one team to Miami to death by practice squad. I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
He's somewhere.
yeah.
I don't. It doesn't matter. That's my point. But they spent first overall draft pick. It was high. It was something up there.
Top tier.
And then new coach, new GM came in, and they went first round, first pick, Kyler Murray.
Mm-hmm.
They said, "See ya, we're done." And the quarterback class coming out this year isn't great.
It's not awful, but it's not
awful. It really depends on. I think Matt Corral is going to be probably one of the better ones to come out of this. He showed a lot of promise.
And Sam
With
Howell's not.
Sam Howell's good, but
Kenny Pickett's the intriguing one because
gotta be
Kenny Pickett's got
careful.
that mobility to him.
So does Matt Corral, though, and that's the thing. It's a very underrated mobility. The dude put up 4 to 5 touchdowns in a game, and half of them are rushing touchdowns. And if you can find sneaky, fast Josh Allen, I'm not saying Matt Corral's got the arm of Josh Allen. I'm just saying if you can find sneaky fast and decent pocket passing, you can build something out of it. He's not going to have the 70-yard bomb that Josh Allen has, but Matt Corral was out of nowhere build up. You still have Ritter coming out this year. You have some quarterbacks coming out this year. I don't know if there's
Malik Willis. That's a name that I seen him getting drafted as the first quarterback off the board, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I don't know a lot about Malik Willis because he plays at Liberty.
Right, and that's it. It's Josh Allen played at Wyoming, and that was why he didn't go number one. That's you get weird situations. And it's going to be interesting, but I don't know if there's a build your franchise around it quarterback coming out this year, which usually makes it better for those teams that are picking a little bit further on. You don't have a 1-1 quarterback. You just don't this year. So you don't need, and the 1-1 team doesn't want a quarterback. I don't think
any of the
they've
teams
completely given up on Trevor Lawrence.
The top 5 picks, Jaguars don't want to get a quarterback. The Lions don't.
I think they're good with sticking with Goff for another year. They're not going to rush out.
Houston, I heard that they like Davis Mills if Deshaun's not on the team next year, so they're fine there. The Jets drafted Zach Wilson last year. The Giants, I think, are waiting till next year to go after.
The Giants also have 2 picks in the first round. Correct me if I'm wrong.
5 and 7.
Yeah, so they could trade back. They could do something. The point is, there's 4 or 5 quarterbacks that are on the questionable thing this year that you don't have to reach for this year.
Nope.
You can pick them up when you want to.
Right.
And I think that makes a very intriguing quarterback class. Instead of having 5 people fight at the top, you can literally just sit at your position and be like, I think I want this guy. And I think you'll get him.
The only spot I could see someone trading up to get a quarterback is that 10 spot with the Jets' second pick in the draft, because Joe Douglas, from what I've been reading, because I'm obviously following Jets stuff, is that Joe Douglas kind of wants to move the 10th pick, whether it means that Pittsburgh moves up to 10 to draft a quarterback, or whoever jumps up, Denver jumps up 1 spot to 10 to draft a quarterback or whatever. Like that's the only place I could see someone jumping up to do, because all the teams that are picking in the top 10 have positional needs, and that's where the players are falling in this draft, because you got 3 offensive tackles projected in the first 10 picks, 3 pass rushers, you got 2 corners, you got a safety, a linebacker. It's not a very sexy draft right now.
It's a team building draft.
Yep. 110%.
And that's big for players like the Jets. Mm-hmm. That's big for players like the Giants. So to have extra picks in the first round for those teams that need that offensive line, for those teams that need an edge rusher, It doesn't necessarily make for great fantasy football talk.
Nope.
But it's going to make for one of the more interesting football drafts in a while. Because I honestly think if you can project properly the first 10 picks in this draft, you should win a medal.
I don't think you're going to get a fantasy football relevant player drafted in the first 10 picks of this draft.
Unless someone trades up to 7 or 10.
Exactly, which I don't
and
know
that
if
would
they're
be
going
those
to.
would be your question. Here's if someone, and it's, I don't think many things are going to move before draft, but if the Jets can move 10, then the Giants can move 7, depending on what the team that's moving is looking for.
Right.
But there's not a fight for them. So I don't think you're going to see many moves. You'll probably see 1 or 2 moves on draft day, but they'll be for active picks. They won't be for anything else. I want to pick now.
Yeah.
Type of moves. You're going to see a lot of pandering to get trades. But they're not going to be for the players that we're going to be talking about after the draft. It's going to be interesting to see where some people land, but there's not big names this year. Year after that, enjoy the show because they're coming.
There are a couple big names, but they're not fantasy relevant big names. Like Aiden Hutchinson.
My apologies.
Aiden
My
Hutchinson
apologies
and
to any
Kayvon.
football player that watches our podcast, which is none of them, who feels offended by the fact that I just said that. Well, I'm sorry.
Aiden Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeau are supposed to be 2 premier pass rushers at 1 and 2. Evan Neal
Yippee.
is supposed
Let
to be
me go ahead and draft them in my IDP league that I don't have.
Right, but you get what I'm saying. Like it's not going to be
adding IDP to the fantasy league that we can talk about these players also. I'm adding it right now.
I've seen one
dynasty defensive players.
I've seen a couple mock drafts where the first fantasy relevant player being taken is actually at number 10 with the Jets, and the Jets taking a shot on Drake London from USC.
I just like to note that, and it does nothing to do with this, that the Maple Leafs were killing the Rangers, and now the Rangers are killing the Maple Leafs.
Well, that's good. Mike should be happy.
It is 6-3 Rangers.
Woof.
It was not 6-3 earlier.
Last time I saw it was 3-2.
3-1 Toronto. Oh. It was very, very different. Very different. Wow, Marquette beat Villanova. Put that on the list of things that shouldn't have happened tonight. Anywho.
Well, welcome to Ice Rink Dynasty, the fantasy hockey podcast.
Don't tempt me. I'll talk about anything.
I know.
I'll just talk about
sports. Talked about a ghost.
Yeah, okay. Well, that was your fault.
So I should know better to get you on your tangents. But
you did this to you,
right? You're not gonna so going back to it, you're not gonna see fantasy relevant players until you get to double digits, pretty much. And the fantasy relevant players that you pay attention to right now are the wide receivers, because we talked about this. Rookie quarterbacks don't usually have a fantasy impact, in this year, none of them really did. Davis Mills had a couple of good games. Justin Fields had 1 good game. Zach Wilson had a couple of good games. Trevor Lawrence didn't know what the end zone was until for like 8 weeks of the year. He didn't know how to throw a touchdown. So if these quarterbacks, those quarterbacks from this past year were more highly touted than this year's quarterbacks too. And that's one way to look at it also. But the quarterbacks in this draft are going to be going to quote unquote better situations because they're going to be later in the draft, like Mac Jones. Mac Jones went to the Patriots. He was in a better situation. He was probably the most fantasy relevant because he was consistent out of the rookie quarterbacks this year. But the wide receivers are who I'm paying attention to go where in the first round, and you're not going to have a first round running back unless someone trades into the back end of the first round this year, which I don't even think you're going to have. And I think you're not going to get a running back taken until the middle of the second.
No, situational wise, and it's nice that you'd bring that up. Remember, if you will, Patrick Mahomes. A mid first round pick, mid to early first round pick. There's the signed helmet we're looking for. Mid to early for, what did he go? 10, 12? He went 12. Somewhere there.
I think he went 12.
So, got to sit for a whole year behind Alex Smith, learn the offense, do that. And Patrick Mahomes in a lot of fantasy leagues was picked up off of waivers. Right at the end of his first season, week 15, week 16, where he was.
After I dropped him,
he was grabbed.
Yep, I dropped him and Pat picked him up. I still won,
and then traded him for 2 first round picks. and still has Josh Allen, which is awesome.
I don't. Again, another person I had that was I dropped. By the way, he was picked 10th overall.
10. So it's
Yeah.
10. It was 10 or 12.
Yeah.
But look at where you're looking at the first quarterback this year. Possibly 10.
Trading up to 10.
You're
Yeah.
gonna have a year to sit, and I honestly think sitting for a year is probably one of the best things that can happen for a quarterback. It just gives you more time to learn.
Right.
Just scrolling through mock draft, Mel Kiper, whatever the hell number he's on, he's probably only on one,
I
but
think
you
this is
never know with him.
technically.
It might be like 6 for him.
I think this is
And
technically
then
his
get to
first
48
published.
before.
It's his first
Yeah,
published.
Malik Willis going to Washington
At what, 11, 12?
at 11
Yep.
is the first quarterback. Jets take a wide receiver,
Drake London.
Drake London,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting to me.
He's got a lot of Mike Evans comps because of his size. He's 6'5".
It's got to be but you also have to look at the Jets at a whole, and they have to be ditching some of these wide receivers for them to grab a wide receiver, and I mean more than half of them.
Jameson Crowder's gone. Denzel Mims is going to be gone. Keelan Cole, I don't think is going to be there next year. Braxton Berrios, they're in contract talks for an extension.
Slight receiver.
And a
I
good
can
returner.
get that. There's your three.
He's a good returner.
If you got Elijah Moore, Braxton Berrios, and then you're drafting this guy to be a starting wide receiver with Zach Wilson, okay, I get it.
You're missing the guy that they signed last year. They're not going to throw Corey Davis on the bench. They gave him a huge contract.
Then there you go, and that's why it makes no sense to draft this wide receiver.
Yep.
I know Corey Davis won't be on the field all year, but you live with it, you die with it. So you're talking about a team who
has bigger needs
than a wide receiver, like, and that's why you could see trading back at that 10th round. If that's the player that people see as 10, you got to trade, or you have to just admit to the fact that you're going to take a lesser player, because there's no reason for them to draft him at wide receiver if he's not going to be moving into a starting role. With a 10th pick, they need to have someone who's going to be starting.
Right. So in that mock draft, he has the Jets taking Kyle Hamilton at 4, the safety from Notre Dame, which
is understandable.
I get it, but the last time the Jets drafted a safety that high, it was Jamal Adams, and to me personally, I would rather use that on like Stingley or an offensive lineman at 4, maybe even that pass rusher out of Purdue. I don't know how to say his last name, so I'm not even going to try to say that. But give me something like that over a safety right now. That's way too high of a draft pick for a safety, in my opinion.
He's good,
but I get it. But we have other more glaring needs than a safety. Get me a shutdown corner like Derek Stingley instead. And then at 10
the problem is, and I agree with this. You got Stingley at 8.
Going to Atlanta.
You're overpicking. Fairly significantly, which is a Giants thing, not really a Jets thing. The Jets just pick all the wrong players. They don't reach a couple of picks ahead of themselves. If you could pick up some sort of trade with the Panthers, for example. So if you look at the mock draft, you have 2 offensive tackles going back to back. If the Panthers could hop up and the Jets could hop back, and then take cornerback there, grab an extra pick along the way. Now, it's something that obviously requires a competent GM, which doesn't exist in New York, but that's besides the point.
Joe Douglas is definitely not the worst GM the Jets have ever had.
You're right. He's definitely not the worst GM in New York.
No, because there is only one in New York currently. Sorry, there's another one. There's one in Buffalo.
Oh, that makes him the worst one. Okay, congratulations. Anywho. Okay, he's not the worst one in Jersey.
I don't mind Joe Douglas. If I'm being completely honest with you, out of the past few GMs that we've had, Joe Douglas has made the better moves.
This will be the draft to tell.
Yeah,
but that's besides the point. Let's get to the things we're talking about. Kenny Pickett, quarterback, projected to go to the Saints, and then you have Matt Corral projected to go to the Steelers. Those are late first round. I could see them swapping.
Pickett going to Pittsburgh because he's from Pittsburgh. That's whatever.
The Saints pick first, and I think Matt Corral is a better fit for the kind of offense they run than Kenny Pickett.
Not necessarily, because Taysom Hill runs that offense. Kenny Pickett is a better version of Taysom Hill it makes sense for him to go to New Orleans if
Yeah,
they're
but
already running an
Taysom Hill
offense
didn't run
last time.
that offense well.
Because it's
Drew Brees ran that
Because
offense.
it's Taysom Hill.
That's okay. Drew Brees ran the offense. Taysom Hill played in the offense. Matt Corral for me is a better passer and has legs. Versus the other way around, which is the way I view Kenny Pickett. And then if you got Pickett, Pittsburgh native, you want Pittsburgh to have the next franchise face. Guy coming out of Pittsburgh definitely helps his standing in the situation.
Right.
So I mean, those are your. That's it. Those are your. There's a couple wide receivers, but I don't think they're going to make a lot of
Jameson
impact.
Williams. I think Jameson Williams got drafted by the Patriots in that mock draft, which is
he did,
which
is dead
good.
man's land.
Well, no,
Stop lying.
Well, no,
dead
because
man's land.
Well, hold on. Who was his quarterback last year?
Yes, which is awesome. Why is there a cat on my counter? Anyway,
you have a cat?
It's literally on the counter. My sister-in-law has a cat who's with us, and he's crawling on the stove, which may or may not be on. Congratulations. I knew it. Ha!
You literally called someone walking in during this.
Person in your room.
He was like, oh, I like how you're upstairs. I'm like, yeah, no one's going to be walking down the stairs, randomly walking. And he goes, someone's going to walk in. Yeah, you did. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a buffalo chicken stuffed peppered.
Can't beat that.
No. So
can't beat that. That's a good delivery.
Yeah, so we need to wrap this. We got to wrap this up so I can eat.
Oh, so you can eat. Okay, that makes sense. Yes, it's Mac Jones to Jameson Williams, and I get it. It's nice connection.
It's intriguing.
The offense,
but who knows when Jameson's
going to
play?
It's a place where people go to die.
Yeah, but who even knows when Jameson's going to play? If Jameson's going to be the same guy he was, he just tore his ACL right in the national championship game.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? But it's still too early to tell. We have quarterbacks might be on the move this year, like Jimmy Garoppolo might be getting traded.
You got trades going. Yeah, you got trades going everywhere.
Aaron Rodgers.
This draft has one interesting thing that I want to talk about. Sam Howell to the Detroit Lions.
They traded. They have a later first round pick, correct? And
they have it from the Rams.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because we have Matthew Stafford and they have Jared Goff,
right.
So we had to give them 2 first round picks also. And this year's is going to be in the back end of the draft because the Rams are still alive. And that's a Sam Howell landing spot, and I honestly don't hate that.
Me either.
That's my spot where he gets to sit for a year.
Yeah.
The Lions have a lot of draft picks that they can build something around. They have a lot of young wide receivers, which is a positive. Always a positive to have younger wide receivers who don't die every week. Kenny Galladay, in case he watches, sorry. Just in case. At this point, since you're worried. Since you're worried, I now have to be conscious of professional players watching my podcast, podcast that I host of, whatever. Anywho, I'm not actually worried, but just in case, maybe if he hops on for a moment and he goes, "No, not me." Sorry, but you can't stay healthy.
Maybe he can catch an episode, seeing as he can't catch a ball.
He can't stay on the field. He can catch a ball.
Well, when he's on the field, he still can't catch the ball. He learned how to catch from Evan Ingram.
Hurtful.
Yeah.
I learned how to catch from Evan Ingram.
Am I wrong? By the way, I like how you're on like the 5-second TV delay and just caught it.
I was mid sentence and then I was like, oh, processed, got it, nailed it. No. So again, but there's no quarterback that goes there with the exception of the one that goes to Pittsburgh that is probably going to be starting.
Yep.
And the Pittsburgh starting quarterback situation is not a great place to be in unless they happen to also draft 4 offensive linemen at the same time, which the last time I checked, they don't have that many picks in the first round.
And I'll give it to Pittsburgh. They actually, like Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool are good pieces for a quarterback to go to when you can throw the ball.
They're not going to die in the process.
Exactly.
And it sure as hell seems like they're going to die in the process.
Yeah.
So interesting first season for that quarterback. He's not on my would draft moment. Maybe late if you want to take a flyer on QB2.
Seeing as we're a super flex league, they're going to all these quarterbacks are going to get drafted.
Any quarterback who starts is going to get drafted. I'll give you that. And this is where if you're at the tail end of next year, I know we're looking way too far ahead, but if you're at the tail end of next year, there's going to be 2 or 3 quarterbacks that are going to be in that position that they're going to be starting next year. I really feel that. I think Desmond Ritter is better than he's projected to be. I think Matt Corral ends up in a decent situation.
If he goes to Detroit, he's in a
Those are
good
my 2 that I'm
situation.
watching out for.
Mm-hmm.
And then if Sam Howell ends up in Detroit, that's a decent next year situation. So
That's a good spot.
those are the 3 that would be on my end of year grab them if you got them watch list for next year. But they're not on the draft board. And that's 3 first round quarterbacks that are not on a draft board. That's when have we seen quarterbacks go in the first round and not be on a dynasty league draft board?
Mm-hmm.
And that just shows you how offensively shallow this draft class is.
The thing that
A
you need to
lot of those first round picks are going to be defensive players
and offensive
or
linemen,
tackles, which mean nothing.
if
Yeah,
you
or
got,
tackles.
and you also got the what was it, out of Iowa, you got that center. Wherever that center goes from Iowa, Linderbaum, I believe his last name is. Wherever that guy goes, expect the run game to improve and the pass protection to improve because that kid's good. You don't talk about a center being drafted in the first 15 picks unless he's going to be a stud center. Centers don't usually get drafted until the second round unless they're really good, which this kid is. So watch where he goes and pay attention to that. One more thing I do want to bring up before we go. Calvin Ridley is on his way out of Atlanta, it seems like, from everything I've seen, is that they're going to look to trade him. Make a lower offer on him to the team who probably is frustrated with him after last year.
You also don't know what he's going to do next year.
That's why I'm not saying
You
it's
don't
for
know
him a
if he's
first
going to
round
sit
pick.
out again. You don't know if he's going to, and it's hard. It's a balancing act for both people involved in that trade.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to give up too much for a player who has no discernible future,
Right.
and you don't want to trade a player who has no discernible future,
Because
because
you don't know if he's going to go
all of a
off
sudden he could
next
end
year.
up on the Packers with Aaron Rodgers
Mm-hmm.
and be starting again because they just wanted something, and that's where he ended up. So it's hard to project where that trade is if you have something, if you have a player who's not, maybe a hardcore Falcons fan who owns Calvin Ridley,
Ricky.
maybe you throw something at, yeah, well, that's who owns Calvin Ridley.
Yep.
So if you don't have that situation in a shallower keeper league and someone's willing to move something for a third round pick,
That's what I would do.
I think it's harder for me to give up something more than that with a player who simply walked away from football.
Right. And we don't know. We
You've
know. We still
watched.
don't know why he walked away from football.
You
We
don't. He could hate the Falcons. He could hate Atlanta. He could just be
exactly.
done
We
with
have
football.
no idea why he
Um,
walked away.
so it's hard to give up something significant. I don't think, and in this league, I think he makes the drop list. To
I
be
don't think so.
completely honest, he's gotta.
I don't think so.
If
I think
unless
Ricky holds
and
on
now
to him.
now granted, the drop list doesn't come out until post draft and beginning of season reports. So if he's still questionable at that time, if he has no set spot and you only get to keep 3 certain wide receivers,
Mm-hmm.
you got to look for a pick. If that's look at one of those lower teams who doesn't have 3 or 4 wide receivers that they're keeping, see if you can get a pick out of that. I can't see keeping a player. Let's say we do this at the beginning of August even. If Calvin Ridley is not on a team and committed to playing football, and you have roster limitations of keepers,
It's hard to
how
keep
can
him.
you keep him?
It's hard to keep him.
Obviously, he's going to get drafted again, but he's going to drop also. And now the thing is, if you have keeper dropping at the beginning of August and you do your draft in the middle of August, that gives him 2 weeks to get onto a team, make a decision, and it becomes even tougher at that point because if he makes a decision, gets on a team, now he's moved all the way up and now you've lost him.
Yep.
But if those 2 weeks pass and he did nothing and you held on to him, now you wasted a roster spot.
Yep.
And the only thing you kept was starters. So you have to replace him immediately. and it depends on how many keepers you have in a set league. But a lot of dynasty leagues, you only keep 11 to 13. I think for me, it's hard to keep Calvin Ridley.
We won't know
I'm
until
looking.
August
I'm
where
looking to
he's at.
move, and that's the thing. You
If you have to
can't.
set your keeper
I'm not
right
dropping him
now,
now. Yeah,
if
if you had to set it right now, I'm keeping him
yeah, because
because
it's so
you have to
uncertain,
assume he's still going to be able to play again.
right? But if we're getting
If you're
towards like
setting your
July,
keepers in August,
mm-hmm.
and he's still not on a team. I've held on to Antonio Brown, and I've also dropped Antonio Brown. And that's the kind of situation that this almost feels like, not in the sense of attitude,
Yep.
outburst, not in that sort of sense, but in the sense of he walked away.
Right, and whatever reason he walked away from, I'm still 100% in support of, if your mental health isn't right, go ahead and walk away. He should not be, if like
Walk away from football.
nobody should
I
be condemning him for doing that or what he did. He did what was best for him, and that's hard to do when you're getting paid millions of dollars to play a game that people would kill to play.
It's more important to do that than it is to sit there and
Try to suck it up and
try to suck it. Yeah,
and
no, walk
damage your
away.
mental health. No, walk away. I still fully support Calvin Ridley for walking away. Don't get us wrong on this,
These
but
are
we still
fantasy
don't.
decisions, not life decisions.
He made a life decision, and he made the right
We
call.
talk about fantasy decisions. And in fantasy terms, if he's undecided at the beginning of August, it's very hard to put him on a keeper list.
Yep.
He made a decision and walked away.
He did.
So if you make a decision and you walk away, it's a lot harder as a fantasy manager to say, I'm going to keep you and hope you come back. Right now, you can say, okay, he got through his one season. He had his time. He did his thing. A lot of players have stepped away and come back. He didn't come back, but the Falcons weren't relevant. He may have hated the Falcons. That may be the thing that's doing it. And you have to think, if a team's going to trade for Calvin Ridley, they've probably talked to Calvin Ridley.
100%. If he gets
I don't
traded,
think they went to the Falcons and said, "Hey, give me this guy." No, I don't want to talk to him. Don't worry about that. Nah, just give him to me. I'll talk to him later.
if Calvin Ridley gets traded this offseason, he's going to play football next year. That's the way I'm looking at it. If he's staying on the Falcons and you don't hear anything, because the Falcons haven't heard anything from Calvin Ridley since pretty much he left the team, it makes me think that there's some type of rift in that relationship that might not be repairable.
No, see, that would be if you get traded. If he gets traded, I'd say there's a rift in the relationship.
Well, no,
If
the
he
fact that he's not
doesn't get
communicating
traded,
with them.
right? But he doesn't have to communicate with them. He can communicate with the other team. The other team will reach out. If he doesn't get traded, it says to me that everyone is convinced he's not coming back. If he does get traded, it means there was a rift in their relationship. He wasn't happy in a situation. They did something to improve the situation. He's coming back.
I think either
If
way, the
there's
cause of this is a
no
problem with the Falcons and Ridley.
right, and that might be perfectly fine, but if there's no trade discussion, it puts me more toward, unless there's a statement from Calvin Ridley that says, "I'm coming back next year. Thank you for your support."
Yeah.
If there's no movement for Calvin Ridley, it leads me to believe that he has made no communication with anyone, and he's stepping away for another year.
Yep.
If he gets traded, there was clear communication with someone. He accepted a move to a different team. He's making a statement that says, "I'm coming back to football." And that's what I would look. If he doesn't get traded and he doesn't make a statement coming he's back, he's on a drop list for me.
Yeah. Well,
unless you're keeping 15 people in a dynasty football league and you're keeping 4 bench spots, and then you have the extra spot that you can keep them. In a league like we have with the starting lineup only, in a couple of other leagues that we're in where you have only 10 keepers or 11 keepers,
right.
I don't think in either one of those leagues come August 1st, I don't think he's on a keeper list for me.
Also, if he gets traded somewhere, I don't care where he's getting traded to. I'm keeping Calvin Ridley.
Oh,
the talent is too good to not keep. So if he gets traded to a team where he seems like he might get buried behind someone else, like if he gets traded to like a Green Bay, let's say for instance,
He's wide receiver 2.
So he's behind Devontae Adams. Let's say Aaron Rodgers leaves 2, though, and you still got Jordan Love throwing the ball there. I still am going to keep Calvin Ridley because he's got good talent.
Yeah, he's on the keeper list. He just gets knocked down in terms of where he is. He's more of a
100%.
wide receiver 3 flex in that situation.
Right, but he's still
with Jordan Love.
He's still
a keeper. Yeah,
there's no situation
next year. He's a keeper.
There's no situation
next year. He's a keeper.
There's no situation where he gets traded. No team he's going to get traded to with any quarterback situation where I'm not going to keep Calvin Ridley. There's literally no option. Nothing can make me not want to keep him if he gets traded. If he's still on the Falcons, we don't hear anything. Done. Got to drop him with the limitations. All right, so we're going to just about wrap it up now. Pat, anything you want to throw in before we leave?
No, you just want to eat your pepper. I get it.
I do want to eat my pepper, dude. It's sitting here right in front of me. It looks delicious. So thank you guys for listening for our first season. Our next episode we will not do until after the Super Bowl when we have our official NFL draft order, and then Pat and I will discuss in depth more some of these fantasy football relevant players where we would like to see them go, the ideal situation for them to go to. We'll talk about like the top running backs in the class, top wide receivers, and we'll go more in depth about the quarterbacks also than we did today. So we'll see you guys in a month, roughly.
Just about.
Just about a month. So stay safe out there. Have a good one.